As you can see, there are many questions left to be answered, but only Carlee can provide those answers. What we can say is that we've been unable to verify most of Carlee's initial statement made to investigators, and we have no reason to believe that there is a threat to the public safety related to this particular case. Thank you very much.
I knew I was right. I knew, look at me when I'm talking to you. I knew I was right. This video is brought to you by TatumStore.com, TatumStore.com. Make sure you get some stuff from the Tatum Store. Hit discount code, I'm back. There you go. I'm back. 35% off the entire store. Like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you get notifications anytime I go live, make a video. You already know what to do. Let's get into this. I just, listen, my instincts are on point. Me and the wife been talking about this ever since, and I got to give my wife credit because I hadn't heard of the Carlee Russell story, but she was like, man, that black girl that got kidnapped, it's just stuff, something ain't adding up with that. And then she introduced me to the story, and then we watched the video of her pulling over to the side of the road, and I'm like, this is not adding up. And it's funny because if you've been listening to my radio show, the last 2 days I've been talking about this case. When you watch it, you see her with her hazard lights on, approaching a certain location, probably about a quarter mile away from where she ended up stopping. And so what makes me wonder is that, did she see the kid once, drive back around and stop? Or did she see a kid from a mile away, and she's the only person on the entire freeway that sees this kid, and she pulls off of the side with her flashes on almost a quarter mile ahead of where she eventually stopped? Then the question is, why would you hang up with 911 and call a family member? Normally, the 911 dispatcher will want to have you on the phone the entire time. So therefore, you can relay quick information if the young child on the side of the road needs medical attention. So how she ended up off the phone with the police and on the phone with a family member is kind of bizarre to me. And I got to reread some more information because everything that I've read, it doesn't really clearly state that. And her boyfriend came out and said she probably was fighting for her life, but there's really no articulation of how she showed up at home. Because it doesn't say she showed up at home bludgeoned. I think that's bludgeoned. I don't even know if that's a word. I know that bludgeoned is a word, but the tense is off. But you get what I'm trying to say. Did she show up at the house bloodied? Did she show up at the house with clear signs of injury? Or did she show up at the house like nothing happened? Like, I don't understand why when the story is being presented and the police officers aren't saying anything, family members aren't saying anything, all we know is that she showed up and then she was taken to the hospital, which is normal protocol. You don't even have to be bloodied to be taken to the hospital if you were reported missing. It's almost like protocol that you take them to the hospital, make sure they're okay, make sure they weren't sexually assaulted or things like that. So I want you to just keep this in your mind and keep it in the memory bank. It's one of those things that I think as information come out, it's going to be more and more curiosity will probably be subsided, but it's very interesting. Her name is Carlee Russell. She had been reportedly kidnapped. At the time on the video, you see nobody grabbing her. You see nobody kidnapping her. But the police found her phone right outside of her vehicle where she may have dropped it. But, it's just interesting. That's all it is. It's interesting to me. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying the young lady is lying. I'm just saying these are one of those things that's like mysterious to me. It's like these people were luring somebody off the side of the road with a young child, and nobody stopped except for this one person. Nobody called. Nobody reported anything. Nobody said anything. It's kind of bizarre. And it's so many points. And then I'm going to show you kind of what the investigation has shown so far. But I'm going to go back to the points that I have been making the last couple of days on the suspicion aspect of it. So the biggest level of suspicion that I had with Carlee Russell, the young woman who was allegedly abducted, now it looked like it was a Jussie Smollett situation. But the big issue I had is that she had made mention that there was a young girl or a toddler on the side of the freeway in the middle of the night. Well, not in the middle of the night, but it was dark. It was at night. And I said, that's kind of interesting because that seems too complicated for somebody to stage a toddler on the side of the freeway in hopes to lure a random person, right? You have a toddler on the side of the freeway and you get a police officer pull over. Like, what do? Grab the toddler and run? You get a toddler on the side of the freeway and you have a man pull over. Well, I don't think they have intention to rape a A man has been driving semi trucks. That ain't gonna go well. You may end up get raped yourself, but that ain't the right candidate. So you're telling me somebody strategically put a toddler on the side of the road in hopes of randomly having somebody stop on the freeway so they can abduct them. That didn't seem right. Now, here's the second point that I made that did not seem right, that is a red flag to me. Now, of course, I was a police officer, so obviously I have an advantage because all I did was investigations. But when the article said it was already a big old red flag, it's like, wait a minute. You get on a 911 call and you say there's a toddler on the side of the freeway and you're no longer on the 911 call and now you're talking to your mama or somebody. That's not the way 911 dispatch works. 911 dispatch, if a person is alluding to the fact there's a child in danger on the side of a busy freeway, they are going to stay on the phone with the complainant, the caller. They're going to stay on the phone with them until the incident is resolved. They're not going to say, oh, yeah, tell us what you find when you get there. They're going to be like, no, please stay on the phone. Okay, what condition is she in? Is their parents arrayed? Is she hurt? Is she breathing? Is she alert and conscious? Like, all of these things the dispatcher need to know so they can relay that to the police officers. Hey, is there a vehicle in the area? Is there signs of trauma? You know, what are you seeing so we can navigate resources to better respond to that call? But the fact that she wasn't on the phone with the police and she was on the phone with her aunt or somebody, a cousin, when she got abducted is mind-blowing to me. And then the video comes out. And the video shows, I don't think she thought there was like a CCTV pole camera that showed her pull over to the side of the road. Now, somebody that's analytical would look at it and say, wait a minute, I'm watching you pull over slowly from about a quarter mile out. From when she put her hazard lights on to when she put over on the side of the road. That doesn't match. Because if you're driving at 70 miles per hour and somehow you have x-ray vision or some, the vision of a owl or something and you can see 3 miles away, that's the only way she could stop at that rate. You have to have seen the kid a mile or so ahead up the road, at least about a mile. For you to be traveling at 70 miles per hour, you see the kid, you call 911 and simultaneously slow down, put your hazards and move over to the side of the road, maybe in the general area where the kid is at, within like a quarter mile. That doesn't seem right. You traveling at that rate of speed and you see a kid, you are approaching that kid pretty quickly. You may not have enough time to call 911 in a time where you approach a kid in your visual sight. Because if you see him a mile away, by the time you get on the phone with 911, put your hazard lights on and pull over, I mean, you already to that kid, especially diagnosing that it's a kid. You got to think it's the middle of the night. It's not in the daytime. It's in the middle of the night. Nobody on the entire freeway has called in that there was a kid on the side of the road. She's the only person that saw this kid. So with all of those things, I said, something just smelled fishy about this. And then she gets dropped off at her house. Okay, I want you to listen to it. It's about a minute and a half, a little bit over a minute, almost 2-minute clip of what the Hoover Police Department gave in their press conference as an official statement about some of the circumstances surrounding this incident. And you tell me if you think that I was accurate in thinking that this was a hoax. Roll the clip.
Detectives continue analyzing data from Carlee's cell phone that was left behind at the scene. We enlisted the help of the United States Secret Service in conducting this analysis. Part of what data includes several internet searches in the days leading up to their disappearance that I think are very relevant to this case. On July 11th at 7:30 a.m., the term, "You have to pay for an Amber Alert" was searched. On July 13th at 1:03 a.m., the day of her disappearance, the term, "How to take money from a register without being caught" was searched. On July 13th at 2:13 a.m., the day of her disappearance, the term "Birmingham Bus Station" was searched. On July 13th, 2:35 a.m., a search for a one-way bus ticket from Birmingham to Nashville was conducted with a departure date of July 13th. On July 13th at 12:10 p.m., a search for the movie Taken, a film about abduction, was conducted. There were 2 searches related to Amber Alerts on a computer at Carlee's place of employment including one regarding the maximum age of an Amber Alert. There were other searches on Carlee's phone that appeared to shed some light on her mindset, but out of respect for her privacy, we will not be releasing the content of those searches at this time. We've asked to interview Carlee a second time, but have not been granted that request. As you can see, there are many questions left to be answered, but only Carlee can provide those answers. What we can say is that we've been unable to verify most of Carlee's initial statement made to investigators, and we have no reason to believe that there is a threat to the public safety related to this particular case.
All right, I think that's pretty much the end of that clip. I think there's a little bit more, but we'll play additional stuff later. But that's the crux of what I wanted you guys to hear and hear from the mouth of the PD. There were searches at her place of work related to an Amber Alert before she went missing. While she's missing, right? She's abducted at this point. She's making searches on her cell phone regarding bus stops and tickets, one-way tickets and all this other stuff with departure dates. Like, and then she ended up showing up at her house. Now, there's obviously a lot of theories out there that she wanted to make her ex-boyfriend or somebody feel, be sad or whatever due to her disappearance. And there's other things surrounding that. But there's other information that they won't release because of her privacy. That tells you that there's something wrong here. And it's quite sad. That's why when I hear stuff, I take a step back and I say, does this make sense or does it not? Let a little bit of information come out that will help me make an informed decision about whether this is an accurate story. Things that sound too juicy, and I say this all the time to people that follow me, if it sounds too juicy, you need to do a little more digging and investigation. A girl sees a toddler on the side of the road and she's the only one that saw the kid. You know, she conveniently enough shows up at her house 48 hours later. You know, nobody's talking about injuries and suspect descriptions and none of this stuff. That all of a sudden that happens. It's too juicy. It is too juicy. And I want you to keep this in mind. Not everybody who goes missing is fraudulating and making this stuff up. But a lot of times people have motives. And it's very unfortunate that this is a black girl that did this. Not to say white people don't do it. But it's unfortunate that a black girl has done this because when she went missing, there's people in the black community, black leaders that were shaming the media and saying because she's black, they're not taking it seriously and they're not giving it any airtime. Well, you know what? It's because she made it up. Hold the phone. I'll be back after the break.